will pass the meeting over to Archie. Let's just get you unmuted, Archie. Can you unmute Archie, please, Flo? There you go.
Where's Paul? Have I got screen sharing facility then, Paul?
I can give that for you. Yeah, let's actually. There's something wrong with my mouse. Flo, can you? Oh no, I'm going to have to do that. Aren't I? Here we go. Got you, Archie. Okay.
Yeah. Well, let me just intro first. Hi everyone, my name's Archie. I'm an addict, and so just a couple of disclaimers. First of all, don't speak on behalf of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm not an expert on the steps. I'm just a recovering addict who's engaged with the process of recovery with Narcotics Anonymous. Part of that has been a number over the years, a number of workshops where we done basic text studies. You know, a textbook is a study book, one to be studied. And it's great to see Aaron there in Turkey. Hey, Aaron. Aaron's involved in these initial groups that we do. I'm going to make a little apology first and foremost. I haven't done this workshop on the Zoom platform as yet, and it's been like 5 years since I did one. It's going to be perfectly imperfect, like myself and my recovery. Just on that recovery, where am I? I'm like just shy of 14 and a half years in recovery. Didn't relapse from my first week in Narcotics Anonymous. I know we've got a chapter 7, relapse, but it's not essential. Just throw that in, although it is a part of some people's path. And it's a, as you're going to see now, might not be the normal what you're used to seeing. And Paul, if you field the questions, and so the basis of it is a newcomer who walks into the room, never experienced anything of Narcotics Anonymous. And how are we going to serve that newcomer well when there can be an overwhelming amount of information, some of it in a language that isn't easy to understand, a new language that people quite often pick up quickly. And the purpose of our basic text study groups and the old home group is to just try and take some of the mystery out of the steps, Narcotics Anonymous, spiritual journeys, quests, whatever you call it, and just say, look, this is my experience. And that's what this little workshop is about, is how you, where you are, can set up a basic text study group. So our program, as it says, many books have been written about the nature of addiction, and this book concerns itself with the nature of recovery. Give yourself a break. So this is the first thing we try to communicate, or I try to communicate to a newcomer. So what is a basic text? It's a book to be studied. We should be looking to see what advice, guidance, suggestions the book's saying for somebody if they think they suffer from the disease of addiction. And one of the things that my sponsor said to me early on, and what we should be is a useful tool for someone in recovery, is get yourself a dictionary. So as newcomers, we're students of recovery and we're learning how to live without using. So we learn to live and then live what we've learned. So you have to bear with me as well. I can't remember what comes on the next slide. It's been that long. So if a newcomer asks you, well, how do I know this work? Because you lot to me seem like a load of cranks talking about spiritual awakenings, holding hands in circles at the end, chanting. And if you straight away into look at that, I would get God to interrupt me now, wouldn't I? with a cough, hay fever. So There's evidence of a growing and ongoing progressive recovery shown in the expansion of meetings and members worldwide. So if you look at the preface to the 6th edition here, since it's from 82, the World Service Conference in the basic text, there were about 2,700 meetings. So now if you look all across the world, 130 countries, 65 languages, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, evidence to find a proven program of recovery. And that's not even talking about our predecessors. Here is tangible evidence of a program recovery that works. So again, we just, it's difficult to believe. As a newcomer, my problem was I was still, my thinking was distorted. I didn't know right from wrong, fact from fiction, feelings interfering with what I seen, what I felt. You lot didn't look like me. You didn't sound like me. Why should I believe you? So the only thing we can do is introduce them to the text, which provides that evidence for them to read for themselves. Now, in the introduction to the basic text, we often quite share that this book is the shared experience of the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. We welcome you to read this text. I'm just going to read it out for you. Apologies for that. We welcome you to read this text, hoping that you will choose to share with us this new life we found. We have by no means found a cure for addiction. We only offer a proven plan for daily recovery. I won't read it all, but I do like this. We're grateful for the program of AA for showing us the way to a proven path of recovery, but we've broadened their perspective. A single substance isn't the problem. Alcoholism is too limited a term for us. Our problem is not a specific substance. It's a disease called addiction. We believe that as a fellowship, we've been guided by a greater consciousness and grateful for the direction that has enabled us to build upon a proof. Now, listen, I have a little joke about this. I don't know if you do too, you lot, about but it is nice in these partisan times of the what's the better fellowship, AA, NA, CA, whatever I'm only a member of Narcotics Anonymous, and I can only talk about that. But it does say in our book, it's a greater consciousness. So looking in my dictionary, I think that means it's an improvement. That's just my humble opinion and not one of NA. And it is said lightly and in jest. So, in chapter 1, who is an addict? So the reading card, I don't know if you're anything like me as a newcomer, but the reading card says most of us do not have to think twice about the question. We know our whole life and thinking. We live to use, used to live. Very simply, an addict. So that's a very simple description. However, when I arrive as a newcomer, I'm looking for a back door. I'm looking for a reason to exclude myself. I don't want to give up my use of drugs completely for the rest of my life. That's too frightening, too daunting. And it says most of us, not all of us. I might be different. I might be all right. I might be able to go back to using when I've got myself on my feet again. That was a normal process for me and people I've worked with since. The fear, the confusion. And I cannot diagnose anyone else as an addict. What I do is I present them with the basic text and I ask them to highlight in who is an addict everything they relate to. We also repeat that process in the chapter Why We're Here. What I do is ask them to diagnose themselves as suffering from the disease of addiction. No good me telling you you're an addict. No good me telling you you're powerless. No good me saying you've got a disease. You need to look into the literature and come up with that answer for yourself. So that's the process initially when working with a newcomer with the basic text. So also what we do in our sponsorship family is we will give them a list of daily suggestions of how to work a program, not because we think it's a good idea or that it's a nice opinion. It's the fact that the literature tells us. So if we go for just for today, chapter Living the Program on page 99, it gives us a list of things to do on a daily basis to start working a program. So I don't know whether to actually read that, or like, should we invite somebody else to read what it says on the page?
Sure, good idea, Archie. Would somebody like to
getting it a little interactive? Has anyone got a raised hand who'd like to read that out for us?
There we go. Shannon, we'll just get you unmuted. If you're there, Flo, if you could do that for me, that'd be great. Or Matt, there's something done with my mouth. You can get Shannon unmuted.
Got it.
Got it. Great.
All right. So just for today, living the program, page 99. Sharing and regularly scheduled meetings and one-on-one with recovering addicts helps us stay clean. Attending meetings reminds us of what it is like to be new and of the progressive nature of our disease. Attending our home group provides encouragement from the people that we get to know. This sustains our recovery and helps us in our daily living. When we honestly tell our own story, someone else might identify with us. Serving the needs of our members and making our message available gives us a feeling of joy. Service gives us opportunities to grow in ways that touch all parts of our lives. Our experience in recovery may help them deal with their problems. What worked for us might work for them. Most addicts are able to accept this type of sharing, even from the very beginning. The get-togethers after our meetings are good opportunities to share things that we didn't get to discuss during the meeting. This is also a good time to talk one-on-one with our sponsors. Things we need to hear will surface and become clear to us. Thanks for letting me read.
Thanks. So getting into it, this is what you need to start a book study. You will need a pen, obviously. You'll need highlighters. The picture of the phone is for a mobile dictionary or to keep your textbooks in, and you'll need a basic text. And on the side of the picture there, we've got the directions of how to study the book. So in yellow, suggestions or directions and the dictionary definition. We've got in pink, the musts, the essential words, and questions in green. Now, when we were doing this, we would go page by page and we'd go through and say, that's a direction. It's giving you an action. So if we go back to the last slide, you'll say, so sharing in regularly scheduled meetings and one-on-one with Addict. So there's the suggestion. And here's what it says you will get as a result. It will help you to stay clean. So it seems very simple, but if you're a newcomer who doesn't know and has lots of questions, given those simple directions of how to study the book and find the actions that you need to put into your personal recovery. I'm going to say this, it's an opinion of mine. I've got loads of opinions. I have these, it's an opinion about an observation, yeah. I don't know if anyone here, maybe a show of hands on the screen. Anyone ever heard someone in a narcotics meeting talk about my program? Anyone? Do you want to just do the show of hands thing just to get a little bit interactive? I can see some of your faces now. Well, I don't mean wave at the screen like we just don't care. I meant like little blue hands. Yeah, me. Or an annotation hand. Yeah. Anyone heard it? My program. My program. When I arrived in Narcotics Anonymous, I never came with a program on offer to help you guys. Yeah, I had nothing. I was bankrupt. So when I hear people say that, I'm trying not to be too much of a rigid, but there's no such thing as my program. I arrived in Narcotics Anonymous, was introduced to the program. How I work the program is more fitting. Yeah. It's more of a statement of the actual truth of it. Because I never had a program to give you. Any program I had, useless. It was no good for me. Why would it be any good for you? So, so there's the directions there. We read a page at a time. We highlight in each respective colour word in the text. We're given a direction, the must word. And in the group setting, after reading the page, we'd open it up for discussion amongst the group. We'd ask members to raise their hand and share what and why they've highlighted the passage. And there are differences between members at times. And this may be due to where the individual is in their personal recovery and what they relate to. And you have to remember when discussing recovery, two opposing rights do not make somebody wrong. Yeah, there's multiple understandings and personal understandings in recovery. And then another issue started to arise. And I don't know where it is in here, but I'm gonna have a quick look. Yeah, these are just some examples, but I'm just gonna jump somewhere else and then come back. Or maybe I'm not, it's not there. Apologies. It's on another copy of this. Right, let's do that again. Let me see faces so I can ask. There'd be an issue in the discussions where people with some recovery, they would say, this is a direction. And I've got it highlighted in orange in one of the pictures. It was not a direction. It was a statement. There's a big difference between statements of people's experience and direction, talking about what they got as a result. So there'd be heated debates in the book studies of one person saying that's a direction and another one saying there is no direction. They're not giving you an instruction or a suggestion. And then the other person saying, yeah, but the outcome I've experienced. So we have to be careful. Like, is there clear direction for somebody who's never read a book, never been to a meeting, never experienced recovery? Is there a direction in there? And then even that's open for, and I'm just going to say this actually, just jump in. The Just for Today card. This is coming in now just because it is. The first line in the Just for Today card, without looking, who'd like to volunteer what it says? The first line of the Just for Today card. There'll be someone. There'll be someone who knows all the reading cards off by heart. Yeah.
Someone want to put their virtual hand up?
Yeah. Or just wave at the screen.
Oh, here's Crystal.
I'd go for Crystal. Yeah, definitely. She was umming and ahhing. It's too late now. The spotlight's on you, Crystal.
I think this is wrong, but I'm going to say,
yeah.
Say the beginning of it again.
Just for today.
I won't use I'll be I forget how they phrase it, but isn't it I won't use or I'll be cleaner?
Well, we hope it's something like that, don't we? Hey, anyone else want to jump in and have a little go? Matt B.
Just for today.
Is it tell yourself?
Tell yourself.
Yeah. And then.
Oh, I don't.
Just for today.
Hey.
Just for today, tell yourself.
Come on, we all know it. Doug. Let's go with Doug. Let's go with Doug.
Good, Doug.
Just for today.
Yeah. He needs unmuting.
Flo, can you do the muting and unmuting? I can't do it from here.
Just for today.
And can you mute Crystal after as well?
It's not working. Oh, just for today, my thoughts will be on my recovery.
Hold on a minute here. Is Doug reading his off the phone?
I'm not. I'm trying to play a game.
He's using his initiative, isn't he? Yeah.
Well,
what's the rest of it? He's playing a game. He's not. Go on then, Doug.
No, just for today, my thoughts will be on my recovery, living and enjoying life without the use of drugs.
Fantastic, brilliant.
Thanks, Doug.
If you're looking at that in the literature, is there anything that separates those? Right? There's a comma after my thoughts will be on my recovery. So that there's a pause there. So when advising newcomers, like, well, how do I stop thinking about using? How do I lose the obsession? And it tells us there, it gives us a direction. When my thoughts are on my recovery, how do we shape our thoughts to recovery? Anyone know any suggestions for that? Yeah, I suppose it's a bit difficult, loads of mutes. Attending meetings. Like it said in the previous slide, meetings after the meetings, discussing what step you're on, asking questions, listening to shares, prayer, activities. We've got so many of them that start directing our thinking towards recovery. And when you engage in that process, the result is I live and enjoy life without the use of drugs. I'm not thinking about when I get 9 month's clean, I might have a little and all that. But actually, you can do sometimes. That's a different topic. So let's going to just give you a little example. There's the visuals of it there. Step 9 on page 40. And timing is an essential part of this step. It says, we should make amends when the opportunity presents itself. So there's a clear direction, isn't there? Except when to do so would cause more harm. I'm just going to ask someone what they think that means in terms of their, so let's have hands again. What does that mean in terms of practical application in recovery?
Marie Claire, I've
yeah.
changed the settings so everyone can just unmute themselves now. But if you can mute yourselves once you're done speaking. Marie Claire?
I think that maybe if you're making like if you can make amends to people, then I suppose like if you can make amends to people, then fine. But if you're going to cause more harm to make that amends, then you would do it in another way.
Okay. Let me ask. Let's go to Gillian. Have you got some? No, that's fine, Marie Claire. That's fine. Gillian, have you got anything to add to that? Not repeat, just add.
So basically, there was circumstances in which if I, like they hadn't so much has been put to bed, right? But I was working on my recovery. I was trying to clear up the damage and the wreckage of my past, and I had somewhat did that. There were circumstances. If I had went back into these circumstances, then either myself or my family or somebody else could have been injured, and it would have gave me a whole other situation to then revisit.
Okay.
It would have caused way too much damage to me or somebody else. Somebody else.
I'm not casting aspersions or judgments here, but there's two schools of thoughts on this. Others, do we put ourselves in others or do we not? That's one school of thought, but it's one a lot of people don't really focus on. Is it says timing is an essential part of this step. The basic principle, step 9, and you'll all argue with me, and I don't care, is patience. It says so in the book, patience. Right, so do we make amends at the first opportunity? Do we make amends just because we've met the person and it is an opportunity? Or, so I'll give you my own personal experience with this. I caused a lot of harm in my family unit, and my brother wouldn't even let me know where he lived. We discovered we were both living in London, and he'd meet me somewhere neutral in the West End. That wasn't the opportunity that it speaks of for me to make my amends, because I'd just seen him. This is just for me. I had a year's indirect amends process to do before the opportunity to make a formal amend was there. That's just my interpretation of what that means. And it's engaging in the debate about what the direction is and then what it means. Ultimately, take the view from the guidance of your sponsor, because that's the person that's guiding you through the work. I would never, ever say, like not to do what your sponsor says, because some of listen, I don't know who sponsors in here, but I have enough with my sponsors coming back saying they've done this. I go, where'd you get that direction? Outside the coffee shop having a fag with me pal Dave down the road. I'm like, okay, that's how you get, that's not for me. So we have to do, though, as was said there, and it's highlighted, indirect amends may be necessary. So we don't avoid the amend process, because somebody is, like it says there, contacting someone who's hurting still from the burns of your misdeeds. Anwar's got a raised hand there. Anwar.
You want to come in, Anwar? Just unmute yourself.
Good evening, family. I think we need timing is essential, meaning that we shouldn't be rushing into it, and neither should we procrastinating on it.
Because of fear.
That's so. Yes. And obviously with what you just said, Archie, with direction and guidance from the sponsor, obviously.
I'll share some experience on step 9 of my own. The biggest harm that I caused, I believe, and my biggest regret, and the thing that drove me into recovery and caused me guilt and shame, I was never able to make that amend, because my sponsors said very clearly about your amending this process is to stay out their life. They don't want you. I wanted absolution. I wanted the guilt and the shame removed. I wanted prodigal sons type scenarios. That was all about me. Although the literature says the amends are for us, ourselves, we can't do so. It's absolution and removal of guilt is like a byproduct of step 9 that it says, isn't it? Removal of guilt is a byproduct. It's not our motive for step 9. And so anyway, that's just a little page of the literature. I'm gutted I can't find the other one. So directions and questions is the little page. So often questions are closed questions, which is simple yes or no. They're useful for finding out facts. This is highlighted in step 10 when you do your personal inventory with the halts. Oh look, I don't know anyone in London Fellowship, but often when we ask an old timer what to do, we're amazed with the simplicity of the answer. Robert the Badger, one of the characters in the London Fellowship, his answer to everything is generally go to meetings, don't pick up. That's his answer for everything, absolutely everything. So just saying, I'm looking for more spiritually weighty gravitas at times, when actually it is a very simple answer. Right, what are we saying about musts? So what I'm going through here is, you know, this, I think in the steps there's 47 must words, so they're not optional. It's like there's one there. It says, look, our experience tells us that we must become willing before this step will have an effect. So you have to do work and to actually find that willingness, and not just be doing it begrudgingly. But there's I'm coming to that in a minute. The one that I'm thinking more of now is the one in step 2. In step 2, it says this step is necessary, or the rest of the steps don't work. So I was paraphrasing that, but it's along them lines. So people who skip over step 2 with a minimum of fuss, the rest of the steps aren't going to work according to the literature. It says if we don't find our relationship or something with a higher power. Now, mine in that process of step 2 wasn't about finding God. It was just identifying the possibility of something greater than me, is what it says. It was just accepting the possibility of something greater to me creates the space for me to hand over, or not hand over, I apologize, turn over to that, whatever that may be. I don't have to define it. I don't have to give it a name. I don't have to say it's this or that. Just the possibility that it exists is enough for me to continue with the rest of the steps. That's what it says in step 2. So what it does say is it's necessary. It's not optional. It's not nice. And this one again states very specifically, if you don't find, it's a must. If you don't become willing, this step's going to have no effect. If you're just paying lip service, and there are a number of exercises to do in the literature to find that willingness, pray or otherwise become willing. There's plenty of exercises. I'm going to start rounding this up now and move it into the question and answer section. And this is, I love this one. Maybe some of the, where's the Americans? There's a few of them in there. Hello. I mean, you gave us this, didn't you? What I have to say, he's it's Scottish in origin, really. It is. I'll just say that one. Just throw that one in there, right? So,
thank you, Archie. Thank you for acknowledging the Scottish connection. We appreciate that.
So, let me just answer the question. Right. I'm going to ask you, it's a very simple question based in recovery. Who can give me a definition of, because we're, hey, practice these principles in all our affairs, yeah? And we're not going to mention honesty, open-minded, willingness. The literature tells us these are the tools we use to work the steps, yeah? Right? And then I suppose it's a personal journey because we can interpret this literature how we want. Anyone who goes down that honesty, open-minded, step 1, 2, 3, right? Let's have a debate, yeah? First of all, we need to know what is a principle. If you're going to practice them, what is, not, don't list them, what is a principle? What's the definition of a principle? No looking in the dictionary, but you should afterwards, yeah? Who'd like to give us the definition of a principle? Trina?
I'm an addict named Trina. I think it's a moral belief.
Yeah, okay. That's a nice definition. I like that. Viv, NA was next.
Addict Viv, an ideal.
An ideal, okay. Rob?
I'm an addict. My name's Rob, and I think the best way is, you know, when I hear someone share their experience, strength, and hope, and what they've done in their recovery, they've given me an example. They didn't give me direction, but they gave me an example of what worked for them. And all those people who shared their experience, strength, and hope with me, I'm very thankful for them. They weren't preaching to me. They weren't telling me what to do. They gave me a living example that I can live a day without picking up a drug, come to and go to Narcotics Anonymous as I please, and I can read the steps and interpretate them the way I think it works in my life. And that's given me a very healthy, very loving, compassionate program that I can welcome others with opposing points of views and give them a hug. And I am so glad that Narcotics Anonymous has kept the door open for me, and I'm going to keep the door open for other people. Thanks for letting me share.
Well said, beautiful. I'd encapsulate that to say sharing and caring. Yeah, just say that because it's on the next slide. Erica.
Hiya, I'm quite early into all this stuff, but I think it's the principle of something that you live by. Like I would say an ideal, but maybe that's too wishy-washy, but you know what I mean? Yeah,
It's a bit abstract, isn't it? Yeah. Right, Mr. 42 days, and then we'll come on to what my understanding is. Yeah, Mr. 42 days.
Yeah, I'm here. I think a principle would be like, you know, like an axiom, like an objective truth, a fundamental truth. You know, like the program, you know, the book says it works, right? Something that works and that will not fail if applied correctly. That's a principle.
Ah, okay. It's a nice definition. I like it. A simple definition of a principle in the dictionary is a behavior generally good. Set of principles, a set of behaviors you can live your life by. A guide to living, some people call it, don't they? That's a dictionary definition. But that leads me, we're going to get Rory. Rory, go on, because we haven't heard from you.
Oh, you know what? Hi, everybody. Good evening over there. And I like that definition because in the long run, the principle always has to do with my behavior, the way my outlook on life is. And it affects my behavior, my perspective. If it's not right and lined up with certain moral principles that we've been taught as kids and parents or whatever, you know, the principle like treat people like you want to be treated. That's a principle, because it has something to do with my behavior, my conduct, the way I treat people. And that's what principles are about. It is relative to my behavior. I think God is more concerned about my conduct than how much I know. You know, thanks a lot.
Right, thanks, Rory. Right, so another one, who knows the 12 basic principles of the basic text of Narcotics Anonymous? Anyone? Does anyone know where they are? listed.
I think Viv's got his hand up. Viv, do you want to come in?
Oh, Viv.
Actually, I didn't have my hand up. Sorry.
All right, it's down. Right. Paul, got a question for you before we move on to the next bit. Yeah. That link that you add to the literature.
Yes, the website.
So when you get a link for the step working guide, a lot of the times it's that East Coast one, yeah?
Yeah, no, we don't do that anymore. We don't do that.
Okay. Anyway, I'm not too bothered if you do, but I've got a copy of that, and I've got a copy, either paper copy of it, and of the Living Clean, and I've got like a soft copy of the draft version of the step working guide that had this same list of principles for every step and its breakdown, but there was too much debate about it and it was removed for the print copy. But I am going to like take you to a list of these principles set out in step 12. So in step 12, the basic text dependent. So this is page 51, but that might be from the 5th edition. So, and they're not listed in number like that. I've done that. So, but if somebody struggles with reading and writing, you can introduce them to these basic behavioral principles. But these are laid out in an order of 12 like this. And if you study the basic text, you will see how they relate in that order to each step. Like at the end of step 1, second to last paragraph, it says, we found hope. Everyone's aware of willingness for step 6, aren't they? Faith, I mentioned patience in 9, unconditional love of step 11, and step 12, sharing and caring. They are listed in the basic text in step 12 in that order, and used to be listed in that order for each step on the step working guide. And then because there's hundreds of principles now, isn't there? You can get all of those for each step in the step working guide. And right, I've got it. I don't know if anyone still wants to see that, or has anyone got any comments to make about that list of 12 basic principles? Is that new to anyone who's been around for some time? Anyone like to? No, nothing. So everyone was aware of them in the step 12 of the basic text.
Archie, can I just ask something? Right, so in the working guide that it mentions in step 12, it mentions steadfastness as being a spiritual principle. So what does that come under out of the 12 that's there? Is it like a steadfastness?
I wouldn't hazard a guess at this moment in time. That's what I was saying. There's been additional principles. These are the 12 basic principles. You know, there's things out there like, what about when, I don't know when people work 6 or 7, one of the most elusive principles is restraint. So these, it's not an exhaustive list, but it's just like pointing out there's some basic principles you could help somebody who can't read and write and would struggle with the step working guide, even if it was audio. You can introduce them to a simple program with these behaviors. So just saying, the basic. Listen, I'm a basic text boy. I've worked through the step working guide. I've done a number of, you know, I've doing my exercises from. Can I just say, all you step working guide babies, I'm saying that, is like the NA steps. There's no NA steps, the NA sponsor and the 12 steps and the step working guide. What do you think we were doing before step working guide? And if you read the step working guide, which says is an accompaniment to It Works How and Why, I'm just wondering how many people who went from the step working guide are studying the step in It Works How and Why before they even approach one of the steps in the step working guide. It also says you can add questions and take them away as needed. Just don't work without a sponsor. I have an issue with giving brand newcomers a step working guide and telling them to go away and come back when they've finished. You know, that's not sponsorship. in my book, my opinion. That's my humble opinion. Doug, what you got to say, Doug?
I like what you just said. In fact, that's the instruction my sponsor gave me when I first did my first round of steps, was to read it, the step in the basic text, the it works, how and why, highlight it, figure out what I connected with, and then start on the step. But
Yeah.
I had a question because you were alluding to it. I was like, this is exciting, because you said there's no such thing as what Narcotics Anonymous steps or whatever. Because when you asked that question, I was like, yeah, in the Alano Club of San Jose, if you guys ever come to San Jose, in the big room, there's mainly AA meetings there, but there's other fellowships. But it has this exact same list, from the AA fellowship. So my question was, what, in your opinion, what is the substantive, other than the fact that alcoholism is replaced by the word addiction, what's the substantive difference between the steps? Is it just the 12 steps? I mean, why do people call it the NA steps?
Well, well, it's just something that's evolved in my observation since the step working guide, that they differentiated. There's a number of ways to work the steps, and I think it fits the individual. And like, I think for me, there's a danger of us becoming isolated and in a silo to say there's only one way to work the steps. It's this guide. In fact, when it was first being devised, it was initially called the Step Writing Guide, wasn't it? And then it was changed to the Step Working Guide. We've built upon the steps from the mothership AA. We've built upon them. It was necessary. I think if you look at, this is my opinion, the difference between the alcoholic and the addict is in the spiritual psyche of the differences, not one's better and one's worse, is that what an addict in generally goes through is ostracization because it's illegal. What they're doing is supposed to be illegal, so then it gets called immoral. The drinkers is legal, and they're just told, oh, they just go a little bit heavy. So there's some psychological differences in what I tell myself, this is wrong, and the damage that causes. And there is a different damage caused with the alcoholic, possibly. This is just an opinion, by the way, where the alcoholic is telling themselves something else. I should be able to cope with this. I should be able to cope with this. The addict is saying, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing this. And there's just nuances that are different. Now, what I do is criminal. What I do to attain my drugs is criminal. More often than not, that's something that a lot of AA members don't get incarcerated. I know a lot do, but there's a lot of them where it's just a different path of destruction. All leads the same, to death and spiritual bankruptcy. But there's certainly some differences amongst drugs as well, and what you do to attain them, and different geographical locations. But for me, with the big book literature, there's not enough work around step 6 and 7 when they initially go through their book, and just reading of the book. Now, I think my 1, 2, and 3 came about in my rock bottom. When I sat in meetings, in step meetings, I was going, I'm sure I've done that, sure I've done that. And I hadn't done any work yet. And then I had done a 1, 2, 3 in my rock bottom. I'd had enough. I admitted it and started seeking something else. But it was rocky. It was shaky. There was no foundation. I had to do some work around smashing the denial, identifying the power, and like making that decision. That was for me. And so there's just some differences, but it's, for me, what works for me might kill you. I'm just happy if you're engaging in a recovery process and you're finding peace and serenity in your life and an emotional stability, and you don't need to seek dependence on chemicals to get through a day. No need to live like that with the program we've got. And I am solely a Narcotics Anonymous guy. I've had one sponsor. I had one home group. I do one fellowship. That's for 14 years. If you go to another fellowship because you feel that's what works for you, good luck. I'm not somebody who says you shouldn't be here in this fellowship sharing them. But I will just say this, another opinion before we go to the hands. I qualify for a lot of fellowships. Just because I attend one doesn't mean I'm a member. The decision, which implies action, lies with the individual to become a member. That implies that you do service in that fellowship to be a member. You're not a tourist, a visitor. You do. Anyway, that's another controversial topic, isn't it? But have you noticed what we're doing though? We're talking and debating recovery. We're engaged in the process of shaping our thoughts. As a result of this process and things like it, we live and enjoy life without using drugs. That's my catchphrase at the minute. Mr. 42 Days Senior. It's a catchy day. I hope he's got more than 42 days. He doesn't have to change. Do you have to change your name every day? Yeah, you do. Is that?
Yes, I do.
What's the is that South California? Where's he gone?
That is SoCal, Archie.
You're not Californian sober, are you? Hey?
I'm California clean, since we're talking about designation with, you know, with fellowships and whatnot. I'm California clean. How about that? But what, you know, it's interesting because, you know, this dialogue, I don't really think.
Can I just ask then? Is this Cali clean like to oppose that sober thing?
Since we're talking about the differences in fellowships, I decided to go that route. Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah. Go on then. Sorry.
I decided to be congruous today, Archie. Yeah. But anyway, I mean, I think this is a great dialogue because you know, when I read the books, my sponsor had me get 6 at a time. I mean, he loaded me up with the literature, right? Which is great because I think the literature is the foundation of the fellowship. So I read the pretext, I read the introductions, right? And I read the prefaces and all of those things that come along with the literature before I even get to the actual chapters that he wants me to read. And, you know, it talks about, like, you know, the World Service Convention and how the people got together and, you know, they discussed these things, right? And everybody's opinion at the table was valid. And that's how they came to these conclusive, right, principles and ideas. And, you know, you mentioned that the difference, I think the fundamental difference between this fellowship opposed to AA was the criminality, right? I mean, yeah, the term drug addict carries with it automatically a stigma, right? From society, a societal stigma, right? Because in order to get the drug, you have to break the law, right? You can go to any liquor store or wherever, or spirits place or whatever, depending on what country you're in, and you can get alcohol. You can go to a pub and you can drink it freely, right? But in order to get narcotics, you have to break the law, right? So automatically there is a darker element to, you know, the actual getting and using of this kind of activity that we partake in our active addiction. So I think, you know, just off the top, when someone hears drug addict or alcoholic, I think the drug addict part is, you know, a little bit more sinister to some people. And I think that's a problem that I had initially identifying as an addict, right? Because that's something that, you know, goes beyond the societal norm or the regular thing that people have problems with, right? And so, yeah, that was a hard hill for me to climb because of that aspect, that stigma that it carried.
Thanks. What's your name anyway?
My name is Shannon.
Shannon, lovely to meet you, Shannon. Yeah.
You too, Archie.
Seba. I don't know if I'm saying it right. There's a handle.
It's Seba. Want to come in, Seba?
Yeah, Seba.
I'm just having a cigarette. I do apologise.
All right, yeah.
Can you come back to me, Seba? Thank you.
Seba, yeah. You just kill yourself slowly there on the outside. And no judgment. No judgment.
I can hear you though. Please, I'm honest.
Listen. Yeah, we got that. Right. Anyone tell me why they put chapter 5 at chapter 5 instead of chapter 1? 4.5 pages that'll save your life. It's called What Can I Do? So, you know, somebody like that who hasn't, where's Flo? Flo, come on, you haven't spoke yet. Can you have a little read of that for us? Oh no, let me put it back. I'm trying to see the faces again. It's difficult seeing the faces and the page. Come on, Flo. And then if you can read half of it, and then we'll get Ben in to have a little read. It doesn't go on my
Just want
radar.
me to read it?
Yeah, gradually, yeah.
I'm Flo, I'm an addict. Gradually, we replace our habits with new ways of living. We become willing to change. We go to meetings regularly, get and use telephone numbers, read literature, and most importantly, we don't use. We learn to share with others. If we don't tell someone we are hurting, they will seldom see it. When we reach out for help, we can receive it. Another tool for the newcomer is involvement with the fellowship. As we become involved, we learn to keep the program first and take it easy in other matters. We begin by asking for help and trying out the recommendations of other people at the meetings. It is beneficial to allow others in the group to help us. In time, we will be able to pass on what we have been given. We learn that service to others will get us out of ourselves. Our work can begin with simple actions: emptying ashtrays, making coffee, cleaning up, setting up for a meeting, opening the door, chairing a meeting, and passing out literature. Do you want me to read the whole thing?
No, let's have Ben finish it off. Thanks, Flo. Ben?
I'm Ben, an addict.
Yeah.
Doing these things helps us feel a part of the fellowship. We have found it helpful to have a sponsor and to use this sponsor. Sponsorship is a two-way street. It helps both the newcomer and the sponsor. The sponsor's clean time and experience may well depend on the availability of sponsors in a locality. Sponsorship for newcomers is also the responsibility of the group. It is implied and informal in its approach, but it is the heart of the NA way of recovery from addiction, one addict helping another.
Thanks, Ben. Let me see what what does that say? I can't even see it. Oh, yeah. Hey. Hey, there's it. I have no idea what I'm supposed to say about this. I've forgotten since I've done it. But if it says a personality change is what we need in the basic text, I haven't put the page number up. How will I know if I've had one? Yeah, personality defined as a class of people, places, or things. So if they've changed, I've changed, is evidence of a personality. So I'll tell you what I mean by that one as well. What I thought recovery would give me and what it's given me are two different things. I thought a spiritual awakening would be evidenced by the voice in me head speaking with a nice posh accent. Now there's Jermaine down there. What's happening, Jay? And but it still speaks in this squeaky Scouse voice. And so I'd be like, and people would say to me, "You've had a spiritual change. You're on this. You've got it." So I don't feel different. I've had a change, but I find it difficult to see. But it's evidenced in what I do. Not how I think, not how I feel, in what I do. And in the recovery process, I've engaged and took responsibility. Our reading card says our inability to accept personal responsibility. That's not me anymore. You know, the change isn't a sense of feeling. It's in the way you live your life and how you feel about that. For me, anyway, that's what that was. And it's a strange thing not seeing the change in self, but others seeing it in you. And this, you know, remember we're talking about people in early recovery, fearful that the change is too much, it's not achievable, there's too much to change, and we just change little things. Stop hitting people. Hey, stop stealing, stop lying, stop littering. You see, all these are principles. Yeah, principles of tolerance, principles of accountability, behaviors that you can see and you can monitor. You can write these things down and see, today I act differently than I did before I got here. That's the evidence of change, not how you think, not how you feel, although your thinking will change as a result of this. You just that you don't recognize it. For me, is that the essence of who I am has not changed over these 14 and a half years. So I was scared I was going to lose who I was. I was being scared of the wrong thing. You know, what I was losing was the way I lived my life and the environment that I occupied and the people I associated with. And that's been nothing but wonderful. I was scared of losing the fear because it was familiar. And it says that in our text. Right, what else we got? Here are the daily suggestions for working a program, as in chapter 9, just for today. And this is what I give to newcomers. In the morning, pray for a clean day, read just for today, and add 2 to the gratitude list from the night before. Attend a meeting, be of service, get a home group, call a newcomer or another member, ring your sponsor, and in the evening, do a gratitude list, 10 items, and give thanks for a clean day. And remember the 4 S's, sponsor, steps, share, and service. I mean, there's another little one that we put in there with make sure you do a reading at every meeting that you go to, so you can start learning what the literature tells you and how to work a program. That's it, finished, but I'm just going to go back to this. In your book studies, these are the instructions on the screen there. So that's what you should be doing in a basic text study group, going page by page with the highlighters, looking at suggestions. Where's it give me a direction? There is a slide missing here where we put in the statements. That, but yeah, do this. Find yourself a little venue. Get yourself a couple of books and get yourself a new book. Yeah, and there's another thing just on adding with this. I will go back over my literature where I've highlighted it, and I was 100% in arguing with people that that was a direction, and then I've gone back afterwards and read it and gone, that's not a fucking direction. Hey, the literature doesn't change, but I do, and the meanings of the literature changes as I go through this. It's a simple little book of like, you know, 100 and odd pages really without the stories. And oh my God, they teach me still every day. They keep continuing to give me new. I'll tell you what was that one? Yeah, I'm just going to say one more and then we'll see what any questions and that, right? Cool. I was 2 years clean, sitting in a meeting. And when I realized in step 1, what the spiritual aspect of my disease was, my total self-centeredness, took me 2 years to hear that. The spiritual aspect of my disease is my self-centeredness. There's only one way to treat that, being of service. Now, there's a lot more to do to find peace and serenity. But imagine it, hey, somebody who's like, I was 2 years clean, been through the steps, sponsoring, and still didn't know what I suffered from properly. I can only hear when I'm ready to hear. And I forget what I knew. It's a fantastic journey. Right, questions, opinions. That's a good one. Never mind experience. Opinions. Right.
Are you finished with the slideshow?
Yeah,
Do you want to stop sharing so we can see everyone on the?
Yeah, I can see everyone anyway, so I'm all right. Yeah, but they can't, can they? Nobody. Aye.
If you can you hit stop share, Archie?
Oh yes, thought you were doing it.
No, you have to.
Shit, it made loads of stuff come up now on my screen.
There we go. Fantastic. So do we have that? What are you looking for, Archie? Feedback, or do you have a question for the group?
Not feedback. Fucking hell, it's not rehab, is it? Oh, you've been doing fantastic. I really like you. You know what? Can I just anyone who like? I know there's people who know me on here, and I know they don't do that. Like, but listen, if you're new, yeah, and you go to a meeting and somebody shares their experience, strength, and hope, don't give them feedback. They've been talking about themselves for 20 minutes. They don't need you to tell them more about themselves. You should be sharing your experience using the time for your recovery. Aye, fucking rehabs. I used to work in a rehab for like 7 years. Hey, I'm out of that. Hey.
Is it time for questions now, Paul?
Yeah, anything? Share, question.
Anwar from Johannesburg, come in.
Okay, I'm sitting with the 5th edition basic text. I got a 6th edition as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, is there any difference in the two?
All right.
What are the differences?
Have you got the 5th edition in front of you now?
But when Sabi and I don't know who was reading now from the what
have you got the 5th edition in front of you
I was
now?
following, but I don't know if I was following in the same pages, but I went to the chapter 5.
Okay. There's differences on the page number.
I think you're breaking up a little bit there, Archie.
I'm not, you are.
Machine does good.
Yeah, not me, mate. Honestly. Anwar, there are differences on the page numbers between the 5 and the 6. Is he gone?
I think he's frozen, Archie.
Yeah. Anyone else got a 5th edition? There's a lovely little trick on it. If you go into the back of the 5th edition to the glossary, yeah, the reference, and look up the word love. Have you found it, Seba?
You can unmute, Saber.
Sorry, where is it? Is it in the back? Yeah.
In the back, yeah, the glossary, the references of like the words.
J-A-L-L-O.
Love.
I lost you guys there. My signal went bad.
Okay.
Yeah, hold on, Matt. Have you got it?
Wait. Listening, living, clean. No, there's no. Oh, yeah, love, yeah. 130.
What page is it on?
It says 130, 140.
Oh, but that's not the 5th edition.
It is XV. X, our symbol, X, what?
Where's page X? Get page X.
X. What page is, what's X? 5.
No, it's the letter X, Roman numerals in the preface.
It says our symbol, XV, preface to the 6th edition, XVII.
Well, that's preface to the 6th edition, and then it's not the 5th edition.
Yeah, I've got the 5th edition here, Archie.
You got a 5th edition, Luca?
Yeah.
So what's wrong with this one, Archie?
I'll come back to that.
I got a 5th edition, yeah.
Fucking gonna die of death, this, I tell you. It's gonna fall
now.
flat. Right, Luca, what's it say in the back about love? What page is it on?
It said see compassion X520, page 5.
What page is love on, though? Love.
It's love, yeah, page 5.
On page X.
X5.
Fuck it, not doing it. If he goes to the front of the 5th edition, there is no page X, it's blank. That's telling you what basic text knows about love. You need to be in Coda or somewhere else. It's a nice little trick in the 5th edition. Little ploy. Yeah. Anyone else?
Anwar, did you want to come back in?
The 5th and 6th edition, the pages are out about 2 pages different.
I've got a 6, so what is what's the difference?
No, just like, so if I say page, because what I was putting on the slides was from 6th edition, so it's page 51 in the 6th edition. It might be on page 53 in the 5th edition.
Right, thank you.
And I think some of the stories are different, aren't they, Archie?
Yeah, all the stories, most of them are different.
Yeah.
I don't bother reading the stories myself. I've got my own, and I listen to everyone else's. And
Okay.
Don't read them. They're no use to me. Aye. I'm not interested in you. I might read them when they put mine in there. Aye. Mine was, my name's Archibald. That's why I'm an addict. Aye. Fucking Ouija's. Aye, Gillian.
Archie, can I ask you a question, please?
Yeah, go
You
on.
know the just for today book. In edition 6, there's no I can't see the references, but the edition 5 has got the references. Is that right?
I don't know. Maybe write to your MP or something.
Yeah, it's difficult because I see 2 different readings in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it matter?
Well, I like to. Yeah.
No. You're reading the literature. That's what matters, isn't it? You're reading the literature.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it fucking says. Just read it.
Just read it. Okay.
Oh,
But
yeah, sorry.
Is there any
Swearing
anime?
now, isn't it?
Okay.
It's not spiritual to swear, is it? I don't know what page it says that, like. Aye. Is there anyone here? Is there anyone here who I could ask a question to about the basic text and they'd feel confident in answering it? Anyone?
You want to just raise your virtual hand if you
put your hand up if you feel like, go on, ask me a question. Nobody, come on.
We're all scared in case we get it wrong.
Yeah, it's Crystal. All right, Crystal, yeah. Are you ready? Unmute yourself, Crystal. You can't even recall what the Just for Today says, so you're not on much of a winner here, are you? Oh, she's bailing out now. All right. I'm gonna ask her anyway. Are you ready?
No,
are you ready for the question? Yeah.
Can I ask you? It has nothing to do with what you just said. I was just curious when I heard you say when you went to NA, you had never relapsed.
Right? No, since I've been in NA the first week, yeah. Not first meeting, it took me a couple of days, but not since, no.
Right, so once you got there, you never relapsed.
Once I made the decision, no, not relapsed.
Okay, I just wanted to know, I got that clear when you said that.
Yeah, and I've got a number of sponsees, that's the same story, yeah. So, is there anyone want it? Oh, blind, it's going to fall down. Right, Gillian.
Well, actually, I'm not interested in answering the question, but I'd really like to hear what the question is.
Yeah.
So much in the question itself.
Who's got a
Go
basic
ahead.
text with him? Sebet, so you can
Yeah, I got.
How heavy is it?
That's with the question.
How heavy is it?
What a buster. What a buster.
Ah, yeah, you like that. You know when people like that quote anything out of the basic text? How fucking heavy is it? Get some humility. Today's reading, innit? Anyway, I don't take myself to recovery, but I take me recovery serious. Yeah? I engage
somebody mute Crystal, please. Crystal, can you mute yourself?
Just keeps on going.
It's Anwar.
And Anwar too, please.
We're at the end, aren't we? We're at the end, Paul.
We've got some time if you wanted to.
No, the tradition say meetings should start and finish on time.
Yeah, we got 15 minutes.
You said now and after me.
Yeah, we started at 7:15.
Oh, all right. I'm talking out my ass. Sorry, apologies. 15 minutes is not. Go on. Hey, Shannon, what's happening?
No, I had a question. You said that every time you read the basic text or the literature, you get something new all the time, and you've been reading it for as long as you've been clean, right?
Yeah.
So you also mentioned that from your definition, the principle or definition that you've kind of put together from reading the literature is a behavior, right? So. Yeah. When you read the text and you gain something new, is that based on the change in behavior?
Well, I've changed as a person through my behavior. It's a program of action, isn't it?
Right.
And that's what we say, prayer in action, program of recovery. If you don't pray, you have to meditate or some other form of work in the step 11. So just through my actions, I've had a spiritual awakening, personality change, psychic change. What I am, who I am, is different. Now, as a newcomer, that's very scary. What I say to people in new recovery is, it's just a succession of small challenges that are very achievable, small fears that you can overcome. Facing them fears is character building. You know, we talk
Yes,
about
I do.
defects. We're not made of defects. We're made of human traits that are blown out of proportion by fear, as it says in step 6. I mean, we are. In and of myself, I am okay. I mean, but when fear is ruling me and distorting my thinking, which then distorts my behavior, I'm not okay. And when I practice this program, I'm not dictated by fear. We were having a discussion, and I'm away working in a hotel with people in recovery, and like my job enables me, like really gratefully, I work with people in addiction, not in recovery terms. It's not about recovery, but we work with them, and so a lot of the people that I work with are in recovery, and there's a lot of people who work with us not in abstinence-based recovery either. They found a different path. And which can be a bit like for some 12 steppers, but you know, if you've got faith in your program and your higher power and your God, whatever you seek to call it, then other people's journey has no reflection on you and what you do at all. So, and I was saying to them, this is just, I'm going to throw some little step 9 stuffs in it about like, well, I don't know why I'm just sharing it, because like it's come to me mind, me thinking. So in step 8, I had to do that it works how and why exercise about trying to put myself in the shoes of my victims, and the understanding that I then developed that I could never envisage without doing that exercise was, you know, our concept, you keep what you got by giving it away.
Yeah.
Well, I was full of fear and addiction. And the people who I come into contact in the lives I touched, I caused harm. The exact nature of that harm is that I left fear in their lives. So that's my becoming willing in step 8, like it said in the slide before. How do I become willing? Well, I had a small epiphany awakening that the real harm that I caused was the fear I left in their lives. And what I'm doing in step 9 is going to reclaim the fear that belongs to me.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And that's how they heal and recover in the step 9 process. That's where the freedom comes from, is that our relationship is not just restored to how it was, but to how it should be. You know, these are the things, you know. Another one was either step 4. I don't know if anyone knows Linkin Park. Song What I've Done. Yeah. I turned to face myself to cross out what I'd become. Yeah. That came out when I was writing the step 4. And my mum, God bless her, was an alcoholic Glaswegian Valium addict, very violent. And she got taken by alcoholism at 47. And I was 10 years after her death writing my first step 4 when that song came out. And then lyrics came, and I went, it was my inventory, but I seen, because she was the headline and star after my step 4, my mum, and I seen her powerlessness in my inventory, and I get emotional now thinking about it. It allowed me to start grieving 10 years after her passing, and I cried in my step 4 when she was just powerless like me. The gifts, the one promise, freedom from active addiction, but the many, many gifts from engaging in the recovery process. We could talk all night about all the different gifts that I was given in each step, in each service position, each sponsorship, each argument around a fucking committee table. Yeah. Paul, you got your hand up?
Yeah, thanks, Archie. Just see what you were saying there about that song being burned onto your brain. It was interesting. I was just thinking about that. So when I came back, so I've been coming around NA since 2005, in and out, in and out. I've now got 15 months. One of the biggest turning points for me was hearing, I think from Lucas' sponsor, actually, Paul, it's the principles that make your recovery possible. You know, and I've been coming in and out and never heard that, right? So I study, yeah, the basic text, but also it works how and why. And there's a passage that's burned into my brain that when we start working the program, we start to work the principles and see the effect that our behavior has on people, either good or bad. And that is called a conscience. and that conscience is a reflection of our relationship with our higher power. Right? It's just my mind's all befuddled coming in from active addiction, but that is just locked into my head. And I'd love to hear from you, out of, if you had to rip away all the pages of the basic text and just leave with the, or maybe you've got a couple, what's burned into your mind from the basic text? What is the big important bit for you?
I would possibly say the conscious contact that we speak of in step 11 is the preceding 10 steps. So let's take away what God's will is, this, that, and the other, and who God is, but just simply working the first 10 steps improves your conscious contact with a higher power on a daily basis. It just says it dead simply there. I know what God's will. I know what God's will is a lot of the time, in the fact that, like, whatever, I think it's today's reading, or was it yesterday's? It's today's surrender and yesterday's was fit to what is. Maybe it's all the same. But anything that happens in my life that I didn't instigate is God's will. Bam, dead simple, just like that. If I didn't instigate it, if I wasn't the cause root for it, and it happens in my life, it's God's will. And like, I spent addiction trying to push back against God's will and make the world Archie's will, and that didn't work. And so I have a 12-step program that allows me to fit myself to what is. Simple, innit? Aye.
Nice, thank you.
Simple. No matter how much weed, LSD, or anything else that enhanced my creativity, I would never have come up with that. And I'm somebody who come up with a theory of time and relativity at 12 years old on acid. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, listen, we've just got a few minutes left. Is there anyone got any final questions for Archie before we close? Well, if not, maybe we can all unmute and give Archie a round of applause and thank him for.
Good job, Archie.
Absolutely.
Good job, Archie. Thank you so much.
Archie.
Thank you, Archie.
Well
Thank you,
done.
Archie.